Hello students, now let's start our new chapter, chapter 8, iteration and recursion. The main concept you are going to learn in this chapter, iteration, recursion. What is iteration? If you want to perform a particular task repeatedly for certain number of times based on some condition, that is called iteration. So, in iteration, the loop body is repeatedly executed as long as the loop condition is true. After each execution of loop body, the variables are updated. Okay. The loop body is executed until the condition becomes false. If the condition is true, the loop body will be executed repeatedly. Okay. What is loop invariant? If an expression of variables has the same value before and after an assignment, it is an invariant of the assignment. Okay. If an expression of variable has the same value before and after an assignment, that is called invariant of assignment. This unchanging property is called loop invariant. Okay. Let us see an example. U and V values are 20 and 15. Before assignment, U, V values are what? 20, 15. After the assignment of expression, what will be the value of U and V? Find out the answer. So, before the assignment U, V is equal to 20, 15. The expression is given, okay. U, V is equal to U plus 5, V minus 5. U is equal to what? U plus 5. V is equal to V minus 5. So, what is the value of U? 20. 20 plus 5. 25. And V is equal to V minus 5 means V value is what? 15. 15 minus 5, 10. So, what are the values of U and V? 25, 10. Now, add these two values of U and V before the assignment and after the assignment. Okay. Before the assignment, U, V values are 20, 15. So, U plus V means 20 plus 15 is equal to 35. After the assignment, U, V values are 25, 10. So, U plus V means 25 plus 10 is equal to 35. So, before the assignment, after the assignment, the value is same, that is 35. So, we can say U plus V is equal to 35 is an invariant. It is true before and after. So, this is called loop invariant. What is invariant? If an expression of variables has the same value before and after the assignment, it is called as invariant of the assignment. Okay. So, see the next example. P, C is equal to 10, 9. Okay. P value is 10. C value is 9. Next expression is given P plus 1, C plus 1. P is equal to P plus 1 means 10 plus 1, 11. C is equal to C plus 1 means 9 plus 1, 10. Okay. So, before the assignment P, C values are 10, 9. After the assignment P, C values are 11, 10. Now, you have to subtract the values before and after the assignment. Before the assignment, the values of P and C are 10, 9. So, 10 minus 9 is equal to 1. And after the assignment, P, C values are 11, 10. And 11 minus 10 is equal to 1. So, before the assignment, after the assignment, the value is same, 1. Okay. So, we can say this P minus C is equal to 1 is an invariant. See the next example. Show that P minus C is an invariant of the assignment. So, P value is P plus 1, C value is C plus 1. Here you have to find out P minus C is an invariant of the assignment. So, P minus C means P is equal to what? P plus 1. So, P plus 1 write within the parenthesis and minus C plus 1 write within the parenthesis. So, plus 1 minus 1 cancel. So, P minus C. This is the answer. We found the answer. Next example is consider two variables M and N under the assignment M and N is equal to M plus 3 N minus 1. Is the expression M plus 3N an invariant? So m is equal to m plus 3, n is equal to n minus 1. So let us write m plus 3n. Substitute the values of m and n in m plus 3n. Okay. M means m plus 3 plus 3 into n minus 1. So again write m plus 3 plus 3 into n 3n minus 3 into 1 3. So now plus 3 minus 3 cancel. Balance is what? M plus 3n. So m plus 3n is an invariant of the assignment. Okay. See loop invariant. Here while loop is given. C is the condition. L means loop invariant and B means body. The loop invariant becomes true at 4 important points in the algorithm. What are they? At the start of the loop, at the end of the loop, at the start of each iteration, at the end of each iteration. Okay. See here, this is the start of the loop, and after that condition, this is the start of iteration, and this is the end of iteration, this is the end of the loop. Okay. Let us see an example. Design an iterative algorithm to compute En. Let us the name of algorithm power a comma n. So here inputs is n is positive integer, outputs is p is equal to a power n. The a value is 2 and n value is 0 to 5, up to 5. Okay. So see this table, iteration p into I plus 1 ai. After each iteration, p and I values will be changed, which means p is equal to p into a, I is equal to I plus 1. Okay. So here initial values of p and I are 1, 0 and a is what? 2. What is the initial value of I? 0. So 2 power 0. Now check the while loop condition. I is not equal to n. Here n value is what? 5. Because you have to continue your execution until n becomes 5. So I value is what? 0. 0 is not equal to 5. This is true or not? True. 0 is not equal to 5. So this condition is true. So you have to execute the next step. P comma I is equal to p into a I plus 1. P is equal to p into a means what is the value of p? 1 and what is the value of a? 2. So 1 into 2, 2. So now p value is what? 2. Okay. After that I is equal to I plus 1 means what is the value of I? 0. 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. So p is 2, I is 1 now. Okay. Next again check the condition. Now I value is what? 1. 1 is not equal to 5. 5 means n. 1 is not equal to 5. This is true or not? True. 1 is not equal to 5. So this condition is true. So execute the next step. P is equal to p into a, which means p value is what now? 2. So 2 into what is the value of a now? 2. 2 into 2, 4. Now p value is what? 4. And I is equal to I plus 1. What is the value of I? 1. 1 plus 1 means 2. So now p value is 4, I value is 2. Again check the condition. I is not equal to n. What is the value of I? 2. 2 is not equal to 5. This condition is true. P is p into a. P into a means 4 into 2. So 4 into 2 means what? 8. Now p value is 8 and I value is what? 2 plus 1, 3. Now I becomes 3 and p becomes 8. So again check the condition. 3 is not equal to 5. This condition also true. So execute p is equal to p into a. P value is what? 8. A value is what? 2. So 8 into 2, 16. Now p value is 16 and I is equal to I plus 1 means 3 plus 1. I value is what? 3. 3 plus 1 means 4. Now I becomes 4. Again check the condition. I is not equal to n. N means 5. Okay. So 4 is not equal to 5. This is also true. So again execute the statement. P is equal to p into a. I is equal to I plus 1. P is equal to p into a means p value is what? 16. A value is 2. 16 into 2, 32. And I value is what? 4. 4 plus 1 means 5. So again check the condition. I is not equal to n. I value is what now? 5. 5 is not equal to 5. 5 is not equal to 5 is not true. So this condition is false. Here you have to stop your execution. Okay. This is fifth iteration. In this fifth iteration we found the result. Okay. This is the example problem of chocolate bar. We have discussed about this chocolate bar problem from the chapter 6. Refer that video. Okay. This is the flow chart for chocolate bar problem. Here if you want to cut chocolate bar into number of square pieces, we have to take only essential details and ignore irrelevant details. Okay. So essential details are what? Number of pieces and number of cuts. So number of pieces is called P and number of cuts is called C. Whenever a cut is made, the number of cuts increases by 1 and the number of pieces also increases by 1. So we can write this PC is equal to P plus 1 comma C plus 1. P is equal to P plus 1, C is equal to C plus 1. So this process of cutting bar can be modeled by a loop. We can start with 1 piece and 0 cuts. Initially single piece of chocolate bar is available and 0 cuts. So initial value of P is 1 and C is 0. And N is the number of individual squares. Okay. When the number of pieces P equals the number of individual squares N, the process ends. Okay. So we already discussed about P minus C is an invariant of the assignment. Okay. So P comma C is equal to P plus 1 and C plus 1. So let us take P minus C is equal to K, where K is a constant. Here P, C are the initial values, number of pieces and number of cuts. Initially number of pieces are 1 and number of cuts is 0. This is the start of the loop. Here the condition is P is not equal to N. If number of pieces and number of individual squares are not equal, then the condition is true. If number of pieces and number of individual squares are equal, then their condition becomes false. There you have to stop your loop execution. Okay. So whenever a cut is made, the number of cuts increases by 1 and the number of pieces also increases by 1. So that is called P is equal to P plus 1 and C is equal to C plus 1. Finally, you will get the result when this condition becomes false. See the next example. There are 6 equally spaced trees and 6 sparrows sitting on those trees, which means 1 sparrow on each tree. If a sparrow flies from one tree to another, then at the same time, the another sparrow flies from its tree to some other tree, the same distance away, but in the opposite direction. Is it possible for all the sparrows to gather on one tree? Here we are taking the index values of trees from 1 to 6, which means first tree is 1, second tree is 2, third tree is 3 and fourth tree is 4, fifth tree is 5 and sixth tree is 6. At the start of the loop, the value of invariant is S is equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, that is 21. So S is equal to 21 is the starting value of the invariant. When the loop ends, the loop invariant has the same value. So the question is it possible for all the sparrows to gather on one tree? No, it is not possible because 6k is equal to 21 is not equal. 6k and 21 is not same value. But the loop invariant has the same value at the start and the end. Here the 21 is not a multiple of 6. So the desired final values of the sparrow indices is not possible with the loop invariant. Therefore, all the sparrows cannot gather on one tree. Okay. Let us see another example. Jar of marbles. See, this is a jar. In this jar, 2 kinds of marbles are there, white and black. We have to select 2 marbles randomly from the jar. You have to follow 3 cases here. Black, 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 white, white, white. Here B means black, W means white. So see, first case is, if you are taking 2 black color marbles, throw them away. But put another one black marble inside the jar. Second case is, if you are taking 2 white color marbles, throw them away and again put a black color marble inside the jar. So if you are taking same color marbles, which means white white or black black, you have to throw away that marbles and put a black marble inside the jar. Okay. The third case is, if you are taking different color marbles, which means white and black, throw the black one away and place the white one back into the jar. So if you are taking same color of marbles, throw them away and put a black marble into the jar. If they are different colors, throw them away and put a white marble inside the jar. See here the algorithm. While at least 2 marbles in jar, let us take 2 marbles from the jar. If both are black, throw away both marbles. And next put a black marble back inside the jar. So B is equal to B minus 1, which means 1 black marble decreases, and W is equal to W, which means here you are taking only black marbles. So W is equal to W. White marbles are not decreasing. Okay. And next B plus W is equal to B plus W minus 1. And the next case is, both are white. You are taking both white marbles. Throw away both the marbles and put the black marble inside the jar. So here white decreasing by 2 and black increasing by 1. Okay. And next another one case is black and white. If you are taking black and white marbles, throw away the black one and put the white one back into the jar. Okay. So white is not decreasing and black is decreasing by 1. Okay. Suppose at the start of the game, white is even. When the game ends, white is still even. Moreover, only 1 marble is left. The last marble must be black. Similarly, at the start of the game, W is odd, which means there is an odd number of whites. The last marble must be white. Okay. So this is the example for iteration. What is recursion? Recursion is an algorithm design technique closely related to induction. It is similar to iteration but more powerful. Using recursion, we can solve a problem with a given input by solving the instance of the problem with a part of the input. And it constructs the solution to the original problem from the solution to the partial input. Okay. So let us see one example. See here, customers are waiting in a line at a counter. The man at a counter wants to know how many customers are waiting in that line. Instead of counting the length himself, he asks the customer A for the length of the line with him at the head. The customer A asks the customer B for the length of the line with the customer B at the head, and so on. Here the last customer is E. When the query reaches the last customer in the line E, since there is no one behind him, he replies 1 to D who asked him, and D replies 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 to C, and C replies 1 plus 2 is equal to 3 to B, and B replies 1 plus 3 is equal to 4 to A, and A replies 1 plus 4 is equal to 5 to the man in the counter. Let us see this problem in recursive process. There are 5 customers A, B, C, D, E. Okay. Here you have to calculate the length of sequence, which means the length of the line. Okay. Here the man is the solver. The solver reduces the problem into sub-problems and calls another instancer of the solver, which means sub-solver. He calls another one solver, that is sub-solver. He calls another one solver to solve the sub-problem. Here, when a solver calls a subsolver, it is known as recursive call. Here, the problem is divided into many subproblems, which means as the subsolvers go on reducing the problem into subproblems of smaller sizes, eventually the subproblem becomes small enough to be solved directly without recursion. Therefore, the recursive solver has two cases, base case and recursion step. Base case means the problem size is small enough to be solved directly. Output the solution. There must be at least one base case. In recursion step, the problem size is not small enough. Deconstruct the problem into subproblems strictly smaller in size than the given problem. Call the subsolver to solve the subproblem. Assume that the subsolver outputs the solution to the subproblem. Okay. So whenever we solve a problem using recursion, we have to ensure these two cases. Okay. Let us see another example. The recursive process with the solvers for calculating 2 power 5. So power of 2 comma 5. How will you solve this problem in the recursive process? So here you are writing power of 2 comma 5. That is the original problem. Now you are going to divide that original problem into subproblem. Okay. See here the problem is reducing here 2 5, 2 4, 2 3, 2 2, 2 1, 2 0. After that 2 power 0 means what? 1. Next again multiply by 2. So 1 into 2 2 and again multiply by 2. 2 into 2 4 and again multiply by 2. 2 into 4 8 and again multiply by 2. 8 into 2 16 and again multiply by 2. 2 into 16 32. So 2 power 5 is equal to 32. So here we are finding the solution of previous solutions. Okay. So this is called a recursive function. Let us see another one example. A corner covered board is a board of 2 power n into 2 power n squares in which the square at one corner is covered with a single square tile. A tramino is L-shaped tile formed with 3 adjacent squares. Cover the corner covered board with the L-shaped traminos without overlap. Traminos can be rotated as needed. So the size of problem is what? 2 power n into 2 power n. We can solve this problem by recursion. Okay. See here, the square at one corner is covered with a single square tile. In this tramino, we have to fill the L-shaped tiles. But before that, we have to divide this entire board into 4 subboards. Okay. So this horizontal and vertical line splits this board into 4 subboards. Okay. So after dividing 4 subboards, we have to draw the L-shaped tramino. This is the tramino method. You have to remember one thing. When you are drawing tramino, you have to leave the place which has already covered. You have to draw like this. Leave this place because in this subboard already one tramino is covered. Okay. So now we are dividing those 4 subboards separately. After that again you have to divide this subboard into 4 subboards. Okay. So again you have to draw the L-shaped tramino but leave the corner covered subboard. Okay. So leave these subboards. Okay. Now you have to split all the subboards separately. Okay. Like this. You can see here all the subboards are covered with one tramino. So we can fill the remaining subboards with the L-shaped tramino. We can fill it without any overlap. This is the concept of this tramino problem. So when you are filling that L-shaped tramino, you can see here the entire board is covered now. So the resulting process of covering a board is 2 power 3 into 2 power 3. So this is the corner covered board problem. I hope you understand. Thank you, students.